Um, Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley, and I'm an advisor in the Faculty of Science. Today I'm joined by Dr. Court and Dr. Hausner, and I also have videos with Dr. Sparling and Dr. Brasinga from Microbiology, and they'll be speaking about the changes to the microbiology and the genetics program. And as well, today we have Rebecca Balakrishnan, a career consultant from Career Services, to speak about careers in science and specifically the micro and genetics program. So, and with me today is Leslie Small, who's another advisor who's going to be helping me. And I think I saw a few other familiar faces who are joining as well. So thanks everyone for coming. So first, I would like to acknowledge that although we're together virtually today, the U of M campuses are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. The university acknowledges the harm and mistakes of the past and dedicate themselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So some housekeeping before we get started. We want everyone to be aware that this session is being recorded and will be posted online after. I'd also ask that you mute and turn your videos off for the presentation. And we're going to have some anonymous polls throughout just to get a sense of where you're at. The chat is visible to everyone in the session. And although we don't expect this to happen, if there's any disrespectful behavior, we will be removing you from the presentation. And I'd ask that you, if you have a question, please use the chat function to ask your question. We're going to stop after each section to ask the question. So maybe just hold off on putting your questions in the chat until that section is complete, because as we go along, some of those questions may be answered. Okay, so today's session is an overview of the changes to the microbiology and genetics program. I'm going to talk a little bit about UM Achieve, and Rebecca's going to talk about career. So Leslie, can you throw up that poll, please? Okay, so we kind of want to get a sense of what program that you're in, what session you're here to learn about today. Oh, wow, okay. So it looks like you can see, it looks like there's actually kind of an equal balance between students who are in genetics, and in an undeclared major. And the same thing with if you're interested in learning about what program you're interested in learning about. So that's good to know. Okay, that's good to know as we go through this session. Okay, so many of the changes we're going to talk about today are going to be based on the chemistry curriculum. If you're interested in learning about the chemistry program changes, we did a session about that in the fall, and that's on the chemistry website, so please definitely take that out. And I know that there is more programs, like I've listed on this slide here, that have chemistry in them, and there's changes to those programs, but I'd ask that you would go to those applicant information bulletins or those programs directly to find out those changes. Today, we're going to focus on the genetics and the micro programs within the U of M. And on Friday, I'm also hosting a session on the biochemistry program. So if that's something you're interested in, please join us. And we'll put the link or like the Zoom information in the chat later in this session so you can see that. Okay, and now I'm going to play, there's 3 videos, and we're going to kind of go from video to video to video. And then I'm going to stop after those 3 videos to have questions. And so I'm going to start with the genetics program. So I'm going to oh, this is Okay, can you see the video?
Yep, we can see it.
Hello, I'm Dr. Guido Hausner, or George Hausner, from the Department of Microbiology, and I'm the chair of the genetics program. And I would like to introduce to you in very brief words what the genetics program is all about. But really, I want to focus on some of the new items that are relevant to this year's registration period. And this has to do with the genetics program and how it has been impacted by recent changes in the chemistry program. And in order to show you some of the issues and how we get around it and how we can solve it, I have prepared a few slides. So let's get to these slides. And here they are. So just as a basic background, I mean, all of you are familiar with this. What is genetics? Well, genetics is the study of heredity and the mechanism, the mechanics of inheritance. And so within this program, you'll be exposed to courses in various departments. It's very interdisciplinary. And of course, the focus is what I would say DNA, RNA, and from genes to genomics, including potential applications. And as I said, the nature of the program itself is interdisciplinary, courses spanning various faculties and departments. And I would say that's the strength of this program. There is a majors, there is an honors, and both of those also come as a co-op option. And the cooperative option is very important because it gives you sort of an opportunity to gain work experience. Honors programs, of course, come with a higher GPA requirement, slightly different course selection, but again, there's opportunity to do what's called an honors project. Now, one thing to always keep in mind, although sometimes we get bored with it, but the academic calendar is your primary resource. It's very important. So don't be afraid to consult it. It outlines the requirements, the conditions, you name it. And ultimately, that is what we base everything on. And if you deviate from it, it can cause problems. So if there's any questions, concerns, or you have legitimate issues, I would strongly recommend you talk to the faculty of science advisors who know what's going on in these different programs and how one can accommodate sometimes specific requirements and how things can be done. So under this slide, I have what I call resources. And of course, resources are your faculty of science advisors. They can be reached by email. Sometimes that's very efficient. They can also be phoned. There's myself in terms of advice, or if there's issues with following the program or course substitutions. But ultimately, it has to be approved by the faculty of science. And also keep in mind, another resource everybody has is what's Achieve, which of course has a degree audit component. Again, you have these tools, don't be afraid to use them. It can save you a lot of time and headache to avoid potential conflicts or issues. So now to get to the main part here. So chemistry has made some changes. And just to give you the big picture, chemistry has tried to create courses which are built on original courses, but the laboratory component has been separated. So now what you have is you have a lot of courses which are basically laboratory-based courses. And that allows for more hands-on involvement. However, it has now created a lot more courses. And some of these can be incorporated in the genetics program, and some of them will ultimately end up on the options list. So now just to give you the overview, if you're just starting out in genetics, it's pretty straightforward. As of fall 2021, changes in the chemistry program start to come into effect, and also changes or corresponding changes coming to effect within the genetics program. So if you join this fall, these are the new rules. These are what you follow. However, if you have already been in the genetics program, you're sort of caught somewhere in the middle. And I will outline some of the scenarios that can apply to you, and that gives you the flexibility to basically either stick with your original program, the year you signed up for genetics, or adapt towards the new version of the genetics program. But basically, the changes are mostly which relates to chemistry courses. So let's start with the new. Now, in terms of genetics, the requirements are for the basic introductory chemistry courses. We have three. We have basically 1100 and 1110. These are the lecture courses, and we have 1120, which is the laboratory component. Then for genetics, there's a requirement for what we used to call organic 1, which is now 2100. And then there are biochemistry requirements. And there is now 2 lecture-based courses, 27 and 2710, and the laboratory component, which is 2720. And all of these are 3 credit hour courses. Now, this is different from the old requirements. And so some of you may have taken some of these courses, or all of them. Of course, if you've taken all of them already, then you're fine. There used to be chemistry 1300 and 1310 was your basic chemistry, including the laboratory components, organic 1 and 2, including the lab components, and of course the biochem, which was biochem 1 and biochem 2, which also included the laboratory components. So if you've already taken those, basically you're not really affected by this. You can stick with your old plan and you're good to go, so to speak. However, what if you're currently in the program, and so what are your options? What if you have taken some of the courses, but not all of them? So I'm giving you a couple of scenarios, and a lot of students will probably fit within these scenarios. For example, if you haven't taken biochemistry yet, or basically you just finished your first year chemistry requirements. So now you will be taking the new biochem courses, 27, 2710, which are the theory-based courses, and the lab component, 2720. Now you still need to take organic 1. However, the 3 credit hours, which are now new, so to speak, for the lab version of biochem, 2720, you can use those to replace organic 2, which used to be part of the core requirement. Organic 2 is now on the options list. You can still take it, but it is now part of your options selection. Now, what if you took biochem 1? Well, but you didn't take biochem 2. So biochem 2, the old version, is not available anymore. So you will be taking 2710, which is the lecture component of biochem 2, roughly equivalent. And you will be taking the lab biochem, 2720. But again, the 3 credit hours for that lab biochem, 2720, will replace your organic 2 requirement. Organic 2 now becomes part of your options list. Another example, what if you're ahead of the game, so to speak, and you completed biochem 1 and biochem 2, the old versions, which had the labs built into it. Now you have 2 options here. Number 1, you can still take organic 2, which is as it was in the original version of the genetics program when you signed up for it, so to speak. But we do give you the flexibility to sort of adapt to the new version of the genetics program. So if you don't want to take organic 2, you can choose another course from the genetics options list. However, it should be a course that's at the 2000 level or up, somewhat equivalent in terms of impact or degree of difficulty, or at least at the level of organic 2. So we give it quite open, so you can look at the options list. Anything 2000 level or up, you can use them to replace the organic 2 credit hours if you want to. Now, depending where you are, and if you're not part of the 3 scenarios I listed, you can always consult with the advisors to give you recommendation as to acceptable substitution so that you can adapt your program to the new chemistry reality, so to speak. And my final slide is just for information because career counseling will do a much better job. So this is just a standard slide I have for some of the other genetics presentations I do. So just for very quick information, there are obviously many opportunities. career-wise, or in terms of using genetics to get into professional programs. And they're listed here. But as I said, career counseling is obviously going to do a much more detailed job and ultimately the authority on this to give you good advice. And with that, I thank you for listening to the presentation. If you have any questions, comments, get back to me or the Faculty of Science advisors. And I hope you have a great registration period and you get the courses you want. And I hope you have a great year and a hopefully better year compared to the years we have been dealing with recently. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Hello.
Okay, I'm going to switch now to the microbiology sections. So hold your questions on genetics. We'll go through the micro and then we'll open it up to questions.
And go.
Hello, my name is Richard Sparling. I'm one of the associate heads in the Department of Microbiology. And I have a colleague with me.
My name is Dr. Karen Basinga, and I'm also an associate head. And I work with Dr. Sparling with the undergraduate advising and program.
So we both are involved with you when you have questions about the program, about changes in the program. So we work together with the advisors in order to make sure that you have a good experience as you go through the program. And we have a little slide presentation here to talk about some changes and things like that with respect to the microbiology programs, the majors, the honors, the co-op program. So again, here you have our email addresses for both myself and Dr. Basinga, as well as our department head, who you'll be meeting a little bit later in these presentations. So when you have issues, like I said, advisors or us are good go-to starting points if you have questions. Now, let's get into it. We have, as I said, 3 programs: majors, honors, and co-op. And if you want up-to-date information about our programs, there are 4 different places you should look. I don't need my glasses to look. The Department of Microbiology website includes several pages for undergraduates describing each course that we offer and the programs that we offer as well. You can also check the new 2021-2022 university calendar to make sure that you know where you are. Now, sometimes you'll find the university calendar a little bit daunting. And so I would encourage you very much to go to Achieve and check on your own progression in the program. It is a very, very useful tool to know how many courses you still need to take, and which type of course is necessary. So make sure you become very familiar with Achieve and the program audits. And of course, when in doubt, you can ask the Faculty of Science advisors or either one of us. Is there anything you'd like to add, Karen?
No, I'm ready to move on to the important updates.
All right. So one of the reasons why we're having this video is that there have been some changes in the programs and changes in how we deal with certain things within the program that we should mention. So first of all, since there have been changes in chemistry and in microbiology, that have allowed us to tighten and make sure our prerequisites match courses, there will be very few prerequisites granted in most microbiology courses. There are some exceptions, and we'll get into that in the next slide. However, for the most part, no waivers. Of course, there will still be, for those who are retaking courses, especially if you're retaking 1010 or 2020 microbiology, that if you pass the lab, you have an opportunity to take a lab exemption. Now, while I'm talking, Karen, please continue.
Yeah, so to reiterate, we will detail the program changes in response to the chemistry course updates of their courses. As Richard has indicated, the courses, the majority of courses will not have prereq waivers. There are a few courses that will have prereq waivers and some that may have prereq waivers. And so we'll detail that in the next 2 slides. So these are the courses that will get the prereq waivers, and there's one course that will be a waiver of the degree program requirement. So the first course is Mbio 3700. This is a new course that we're introducing first time this year. And the prerequisite for this course is 3032. But because there's a bit of a shift in change from students coming from 1 year to the next with respect to movement through the program, we want to make sure that the students that have 2020 will be able to have the opportunity to take 3700, because this will be changed to the next year. Okay, so it was originally 3032 that we put in, but in retrospect, we decided to change it to 2020. Okay, the other 2 courses that will have prereq waivers will be 4480 and 4520. Again, these require 3030. The reason, because of the transition and changes and introduction of new courses, I'm just going to move my video panel so you can actually see. The 3700 is a prereq for these courses, but because this is the first year that we're introducing this course, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to expect students to have this course when it hasn't been offered yet. So we have decided to swap in 3030 for 3700 for this year only, and then hopefully in the next preceding year we will have the shifting of the prereqs to have 3700 and 3032. And lastly, Mbio 4440 is not being offered in winter 2022 because this course is a requirement for the degree program of majors and honors. We will do a substitution for any Mbio course at 4000 level, or any 4000 level courses in chem, biological sciences, or pharmacology. Okay, and these are listed on the microbiology options list as exceptional options list for you to take a look at. Okay, anything I missed, Dr. Sperling?
No, just to say that 4440, the list of, if you go to the options list, you have several courses in chemistry, biology, and pharmacology that are at 4000 level, and that they would act as a substitution. The advisors know this already, so you can either come through me or Karen to get the substitution, or directly to the advisors, which are aware of these changes.
Okay, so then we go to the next slide, which are, there are 2 courses only for which prerequisite waivers may be considered. There are some conditions. First one is Mbio 4410. The prereq waiver may be granted only if the student is missing one of the 3 prerequisites for the 4410 and has a GPA of over 3.0. However, this waiver, even if you met this condition, this waiver will not be granted, should it be granted, prior to August 23rd to make sure that all the students that do have the prerequisite are able to register first. Okay. The second course is Mbio 4602. There are plans to drop Mbio Chem 2700, which is Biochem 1, next year, starting fall 2022. So this prereq will be waived, provided that the students have Mbio 2020 and Mbio 3410. There is no exception on these two. You must have 2020 and 3410 to take 4602. Lastly, the CT courses, which you can see is a majority of courses that prerequisite waivers will not be considered at all. So please do not approach the advisors or us if you do not have the waivers. If you do not have the prerequisites for these courses, because you will not get a waiver for these courses. Anything to add, Dr. Sparling?
Yes, just wanted to add that prerequisite is valid if you have a C in the prerequisite, but there is one exception. If you go to near the bottom of the page, there is Mbio 4700. Mbio 4700 not only requires 3410, but requires that you have a B in that course in order to be able to take 4700.
Okay.
Those are the major changes with respect to prerequisites and waivers.
So because of these changes, this was the prerequisite updates and changes to the program, which was induced by the changes in the chemistry courses. This has affected the program in the Department of Microbiology. More so significant change to the honors program, less so to the majors program. Because this is a lot of information to present in a very short period of time, Dr. Court has made a small video to detail these changes that she'll go through it. And then if you have any more questions, feel free to ask the advisors or one of us. Anything more, Dr. Sparling?
No, I think we just pass the gavel on to Dr. Court, our department head, to present the program changes. So,
Excellent. So we look forward to seeing all of you in class on Zoom, where applicable, and we hope to see you all in September.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Okay, and then the one last video is with Dr. Court, and this is about microbiology changes.
Hi, so I'm Deb Court. I'm the head of microbiology, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the changes that are happening to the microbiology programs for a variety of reasons, just so you're aware of what's going on. So the first set of changes you've probably heard about, and those are related to changes in the way chemistry is being taught. So currently, as you know, we have Chem 1300 and 1310 that are required parts of the program, and those are being replaced by a series of 3 chemistry courses. And so what's happening is that the labs are being separated from the courses, and the labs for 1300 and 1310 are being combined in a single course, 1120. So you will need all 3 of those in your micro program, and we've adjusted the program to make space for that. If you've already completed 1300 and 1310 before you enter micro, the credit hours will be adjusted accordingly. And as with all of these changes, make sure you talk with the science advisors and do your degree audits to see where things are at. Okay, so most of you will have completed first year chemistry before you decide to join a micro program. The next set of courses that you need to think about are biochemistry, which are double numbered in chemistry and microbiology. And so the same pattern is happening. So the chemistry courses are being replaced by 2 lecture-based courses and a lab course. And all 3 of those will be required in microbiology. And again, if you've completed both of them, 2360, 2370, then you've met all the 3 requirements, and you can replace one of those spaces or 3 credit hour blocks with another course from the options list. And if you've only completed one of them, you should probably make sure you talk to a science advisor, because we do have strategies for different combinations of courses you might have taken. So this is biochemistry. The other changes are reflected by organic chemistry, which is again being replaced by a series of courses. Chem 2100, 2110, and 2120, which is a lab. And basically what is happening is that we are maintaining the requirement for the first part of organic chem. You don't have to complete the lab. So Chem 2100 is going to be required as part of the micro program, and that's because it's a prerequisite for the biochem. So okay, so in terms of those courses, basically we're asking for 1 fewer organic course, so that frees up the space for one of the new chemistry labs. And then we've taken other courses out of the electives to allow you to fit in the second or the additional biochem course if you happen to need it. The other changes that are happening are part of a sort of a longer term process that we've been going through in microbiology to do with 3rd and 4th year labs. And so we've introduced a couple of years ago now, Mbio 3600, which is a course that deals with molecular biology labs that are relevant to microbiology. And the idea here is that we took lab components out of a variety of 4th year courses that no longer have labs and put them together into a lab-based course where you have 2 lab periods a week. There's really very minimal lectures. The lectures are basically introductory. And the idea is that then you can do more relevant experiments because you have more time to be in the lab and you can focus on those experiments. So that course has been running for a couple of years. Unfortunately, we had canceled the offering last winter due to COVID. And so this year, we're going to try and offer as many sections as we can with COVID requirements. And if things open up in the future, then we'll be able to offer more. So this is a required course. The other required course that we've generated is Mbio 3700. So this is also required. It hasn't been offered before. And this is basically microbiology labs. And so we've kind of split the 3rd year lab offerings into molecular techniques and microbiology techniques. So in this lab, you learn about culturing organisms, identifying organisms, purifying them out of environments, and so these are basically the labs from the existing courses: 3030, which is Micro 3, 3280, which is communities, and 3470, which is systematics. And so with taking the key parts out of these labs and putting them into a single lab course, what we've done is taken out some of the redundancy. And again, the idea is that you work on sort of small projects and things that will incorporate all of these into a more realistic kind of format. So as a result of this, we've also taken the labs away from these courses. So these courses are going to be replaced this year by 3032, 3282, and 3472. So what we're trying to do is keep a numbering system where if it has a 2 in the end, it used to have a lab and it no longer does, but the basic course outline and the theme of the course hasn't changed. So these 2 courses are both going to be required starting, if you enter the program starting next year. And again, we're going to try and offer as many slots as we can in the upcoming year, partly because these are required courses. And the flip side of that is that some of the other labs are going to continue being online for the next fall and winter term, so that we can use our lab resources to make sure that these required courses are available to students. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. The other change, major change that's happened is to the honors program. And when you think about an honors program, there's different kinds of goals. Or there are multiple goals involved. So one of the things is that we want to make sure you have enough breadth in different areas of microbiology that you could gain employment or take further training in a variety of areas of microbiology. And we're seeing techniques and multiple things are linking themselves together now in microbiology. So you do need some exposure to the breadth. So things like microbiomes are important in our bodies. Microbial communities in food and water are also important. So all of those things are linking together. We want to make sure that you can access all of that. So we want breadth. We want to make sure that you have some advanced training. So those would be the fourth-year courses that you can have. And we want to make sure you have some lab experience. And that is the project course in Bio 4530. So that's staying the same. That's 6 credit hours. So in terms of dealing with breadth, we've changed the way we've approached required courses, particularly at the higher level. So historically, we had a list of courses that were important. As we've added more courses, that list has gotten a bit cumbersome and isn't that flexible. And so we want to make sure that we have enough flexibility in your programs as well. And so what we've done is to sort of achieve a breadth and flexibility, we've generated some groups of courses, I guess. And what we're asking is that you take at least one course from each group. And so that way you get exposure to different areas, but we're letting you choose the course that fits your program or your area of interest. So we haven't really given names to these. They're list 1 to list 5 or something in the calendar. And that's because there's lots of different angles by which you could change the names. But just in terms of sort of general areas, the first one you could call kind of environmental and applied microbiology. And so in that group, we've got a range of courses. There's biogeochemistry, that way. And so that's looking at chemical cycles and how the microbes actually drive those cycles. So that is a second-year course. We've got communities, microbial communities. And this is third-year course, 3282, so it no longer has that. We have microbial systematics, so how are microbes organized in our way of understanding. And so this is 3472 now. We have microbes in the environment, fourth-year course, which is 4480. And this course has a lab, so we still have a lab there. And we have a course in applied microbiology or bioprocessing, which is 4520, and so far it retains its lab as well. And so all of these are kind of linked by links to the environment. Bioprocessing is using systems that microbes have developed in the environment and using them to produce things that we want them to produce, for example. So that's a fairly broad group of courses there. The second group are we might want to call medically related. And so in that group, we have Introductory Virology, which is a second-year course. So you can use second-year courses to meet some of these requirements. There's a course on biological safety, 1000. These have a lab. We have a fourth-year course in immunology. We have an advanced course in virology. 41. Or sorry, 4410. And we have we can also include bioprocessing in there, because a lot of the biological or biopharmaceuticals, antibody treatments, all those sorts of things are microbial bioprocessing. The third group of courses is a little bit smaller, and this group reflects the huge changes in microbiology and how much of it is now computational. So you can't look at a microbiome with thousands of different organisms or a genome database without having computational skills and approaches. Everything, including biochemistry, is now, there's predicted structures, predicted functions. And so we want you to have to leave with some computer skills. And we found that the co-op program, when we ask them what employers want, that tends to be the thing. So we've decided that this is an important group. One of the traditional courses that's done some of this is molecular evolution, where you use computational methods to look at evolution and relatedness among organisms. It's 30. We also have something called systems microbiology. And so that looks at how a whole system or how a whole organism deals with a particular problem. So traditionally, we did a lot of looking at one gene or a small one pathway, but now with computational tools, you can actually look at the whole the process from an organism level. So this course is going to become 4442. It's not offered in 2022 winter. That's usually the term it is. And it is a requirement under the current honors program. But if we're not offering the course, we're certainly not going to ask you to come back and take a course, take one course to meet the requirement. So you can replace that with any 4000 level micro course. And we can also talk about other exceptions. So don't be alarmed if something isn't offered. Of course, we're going to make sure that you can graduate. And the other course is that was designed as a computational course, and this is 4700. And this is where you look at a series of computational approaches to looking at DNA, RNA, and proteins. Okay, the fourth group you can generally describe as molecular genetics. And these are the courses whose labs have gone into the 3600 molecular genetics lab for the most part. So we have a course on prokaryotic molecular genetics, 4602. And so again, that 2 nomenclature means it used to have a lab when it was 4600. We have another course in eukaryotic molecular genetics, and certainly there are a lot of microbes that are eukaryotes, so that's an important course as well. And then we have a course basically in applied molecular biology, which is 4672. And that course uses the skills you learn in basic molecular biology and you apply them to a problem and work through designing an experimental system. And the other area is basically microbial biochemistry. And this is important because it relates to how microbes function in the organism, how they cause disease. All of this is related in large part to their biochemistry. So we have a course that's basically on gene regulation. So how does the cell turn things on when it needs to? 450. We have a membrane biochemistry course, which is a required part of the biochem program. And membranes are incredibly important. They make bacteria what they are, and they're involved in pathogenicity, sensing the environment, protection from the environment. So those are all really important. That course number is 3460. And then we have a course on energy transductions. And this relates to how bacteria generate energy. And as we learn more and more about the interesting niches and unusual places that bacteria can grow and the things they can do for us based on those chemistries, that's a very important course as well. So that's 4540. So those are the main groups. And moving forward, if you enter the program this fall, you will be asked to take one course from each group. And again, please use the degree audit and talk to the advisors and to us in Microbe. So you'll still have other Mbio options. So if you're really interested in microbial biochemistry, you should have room to take all three of those courses, for example. There's also an options list, which is basically micro and related courses. So those could be in chemistry, biology, computer science, things like that. And then there'll still be about 3 electives. So in those group of courses now, we hope that you can gain a useful breadth of microbiology, but that you have enough flexibility that you can match your schedules and your interests. So just to remind you, 3600 and 3700 are required in all micro programs. And so these lists apply just to the honors program. Okay, so it's good to sort of plan ahead. We try and keep our offerings fairly consistent, barring COVID, of course, from year to year. So if something is offered in the winter term at 10 in the morning, chances are it will be offered again in the winter term. But please, please check as you go through. So there are multiple people in the department you can talk to about this. The main two are associate heads, Richard Scarling and obviously email is the way to get a hold of people, and Karen Brasinga. And so these are our associate heads. And so they're the ones that are most up to date on these things. You can talk to me as well. And then obviously it's very important to keep in contact with the science advisors and remember that they are incredibly busy, and to leave enough time to be able to talk to them. All right, so thank you very much, and I hope you have a good summer and a good year.
Okay, I'm going to stop the screen share now, and then we're going to switch to some questions. Oh, it looks like there's some things going on in the chat. Leslie, is there any questions that you can see come up that?
Where we're not, I don't know for sure if we know for sure where the recorded video will be on the website as of yet. I'm sure we can send out an email or just watch our social media for where exactly it will be recorded. We do have the other session, the biochemistry session, so we'll probably wait till both of those are done before they're up. Another question was if you took Chem 1300 and 1310 in the fall winter, we don't need to take the new 3 chem courses. That's correct. Chem 1300 and 1310 are equivalent, so you don't need to do the new ones. And then if you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. You can definitely do that.
Hi, I'm in my 4th year of the microbiology major program now, and I've taken biochemistry 1 and 2 and organic 1, and I'm currently enrolled like in OChem 2 for the summer. Do I still need OChem? Because I don't want to take it if I don't need it.
Liana, or what program are you in? Are you in the genetics or the microbiome program?
Microbiology major program, and I'm in my 4th year now.
So I'm just going to pull the slide, but you could use that your organic 2 as your option, but you don't need to take it. But I'm just going to pull up my slide here on.
Yeah, I don't want to take it.
Okay.
And I want to know, so like if I don't need it, then I can drop it, because I'm in it right now for the summer. It just started.
Oh, okay. Is it still within the revision period? So
yeah, it is.
Okay. So, can you see my slides, or can you see my?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So
you see your notes too, but that's okay.
Okay.
If you go to display settings,
I just have to switch the screen share. Okay, but I'm just gonna read from my screen here. But okay, so in your case, you have taken the micro 2316, 2370, and the organic 1.
Yeah.
So you could use the organic 2 as an option, or you could choose not to take it. So if you are able to drop it and you don't want to take it, that's fine. My only concern is just double check that if you're looking at any programs like graduate school or other programs to see whether or not you would need to have that course just before you drop it.
Okay.
Okay.
And is that is organic 2 still offered like during the year? Or is it now like doesn't have the lab?
Right, so organic 2 is now like Chem 2110, and then there is Chem 2122, which is the lab portion of the organic classes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can take it without the lab if you're interested in organic chem, but you aren't looking for the lab.
Do you know if like in U of M for the Masters of Microbiology, if organic Chem 2 is a requirement?
No, so you need a 4-year degree in microbiology or a related program. So sometimes biology works. So you need the degree and you need a GPA of 3. And particular labs may prefer that you have some courses. So if you're going in a lab that was doing antibiotic synthesis, they might prefer that you have organic 2, but it's not a requirement up front for most labs, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it looks like there is a question. From Stefan, okay, if I've already taken organic 2, can I use that as one of my micro elective options? Yes. One thing I just wanted to note is that like if you're currently in the microgenetics programs and you are wanting to kind of move that organic to, or you want to take it as an options course, then those are not going to automatically move in Achieve. So you're going to run your Achieve audit and you're going to be like, wait, the advisors in this session, they said we could do this, but you are going to need to send us an email with your full name, your student number, the program, and what the exception you want loaded, and then we would do that for you. And there's no hurry, you can do this after you've registered, but just note that it's not automatically going to populate in Achieve. So that's something we would have to do manually. So we would ask that you send us an email, but as much detail as you can in it so that we know exactly what you're asking for and we can update your audit with that. And then there's a question, what's the difference between Chem 2370 and 2740 versus 2700 and 2710? Oh, are those like the more agriculture-based biochemistries?
Yeah. Yeah, so they're a more general form of biochemistry, and for some programs like agriculture and some of the biology streams, they work. But they're not considered prerequisites for a lot of microgenetics and biochemistry courses. So consider them carefully if you're thinking about taking them, because they may not be suitable if you decide to switch from a 3-year degree, for example, to a 4-year major.
And then the next question is, when we register for Biochem 1, 2700 and 2710, which course do you register the lab with? That's one of the nice changes that they've made, is that the labs are, I believe, supposed to be offered each term, and you can take them with like whatever term kind of fits better for your schedule. So you could take a look at, like, the registration schedule is up now, so you could take a look and it can go in either term depending on what works best for you. So
I have a quick question sort of related to that.
Yes, Stefan.
About the other labs, though, the 3000 level labs, 3600 and 3700. Mm-hmm. Do we have to take their associated lecture course beforehand, like a whole term before, or can we take them at the same time?
So this year's a bit weird because of the way things got introduced for 3700. So this year you can take 3032 and 3700 at the same time, but in the future we're going to ask that you take the classroom part first and then the lab afterward, so that you have the background, so the lab you can really get a lot out of it. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Just a quick note, when we're talking about like students not having to take organic 2, it doesn't just open up another elective. What you can take organic 2 still if you want, but you also can take any option at the 2000 level that's listed in the microbiogenetics program. So look at the program list and you can take one of those courses. So make sure that when you are doing your course selections that you're choosing an appropriate course. Thanks, Christine. And then chemistry 1300 and 1310 amounted to 6 credit hours. If you took them, will the credit hour weighting be increased to become equivalent to the new 1100, 1110, 1120? So if you're not in the program yet, and then you're entering, say, for fall 2021, and you've taken chemistry 1300 and 1310, then because you wouldn't have 1120, but you don't have to take 1120, then there's room for an equivalent or an elective in that program for you. And then if you've already taken OChem 1 and OChem 2, would you need to take the new O-chemistry courses? No, if you've taken like your biochem and your organic chemistry, you're fine. Do we need to take an extra 3 credit hours for substitutions? That's the same question. Is you would be taking, if you have the chemistry 1300 and 1310, you don't need to take any other courses. Those 2 courses are equivalent to the 3, so you just have to make that up with your electives. And those are definitely things, if you have questions about when you're looking at your audit, to touch base with an advisor. Okay, oh, go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say, so remember that you still have to have 120 credit hours for your degree. So it's not, the degree can't change. And so if you've already taken the 2, you don't get extra credit because the labs were designed to fit into a 3 credit hour course. And now the labs are going to be a course unto themselves. So it's going to be more than just a regular lab. So, so just kind of be aware of that. And when we adjusted the new programs for genetics, micro, and biochem, we took into account those extra 3 credit hours so that the whole degree isn't any bigger. So it's all juggling within.
Thank you. Okay, I am a 4th year student and fall 2021 is my last semester. I have to complete 2 optional courses of 3,000 and 4,000 level this fall. Will these changes be applied to Achieve sooner for us to track down exactly what we need to do? Janam, can you clarify what you mean by that?
So for last year, I remember like I was supposed to be taking like plant 3140, but due to lack of seats in that course, it had just 25 seats. So a mail was sent out saying that 3140 can be substituted with other courses, like other third year courses, which have lab component in it. So are you guys like doing that again? And like, is Achieve gonna help us? Like, is Achieve gonna be updated sooner for us to track down like how many courses and which courses we can specifically pick? Because optional courses, like we have a bucket of optional list courses, and we can choose from them at Achieve, right?
Right, so those courses you'll be able, like Achieve currently is offline. I'll talk about Achieve in a little bit, but when Achieve opens up, you'll be able to run your audit, your declared program audit, and see what you have left to take. And then if you just have 2 optional courses, you need to choose from the list of optional courses, and Achieve would have that list in there.
Sure.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. And I think there's the same question about chemistry, the intro chemistry. Are the chemistry, like the organic and biochem labs, going to be offered in the summer 2022 term? Carson, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to. I'm not sure that chemistry even has their schedule out. So we probably just have to wait till that schedule. Is that what you're thinking in terms of if you don't take them in the fall and winter term? Yeah, I'm not sure. Good question. Okay, Nicole has a question. So to clarify, I would not be able to use 2730 and 2740, the agriculture-based organic chem as prerequisites for the Bio 3500 genetics. Unless those courses are specifically listed, if it says like the 2700, then you would need the biochem, the 2700, 10 courses. Then Alexander had a question, do the new OChem 2 and OChem labs become electives? The OChem 2 and OChem labs, they would become optional courses in your degree, and that's where you need to connect with us to get them added into your options. If I take Biochem 1 along with the lab 2720 this fall, would I be at a disadvantage considering 27 is technically the lab for both Biochem 1 and Biochem 2? So the prerequisite is set up so that you don't need Biochem, like say 1 to move in, like to take the lab, or you don't necessarily need Biochem 2. So they are expecting students to be coming in with different levels of completion of those courses. So my understanding is that you wouldn't be disadvantaged, and you could definitely look at the course outline, like and read the course description to see whether you feel like it fits, but it also might be see how it fits into your schedule with the other courses that you're taking. And then there's this question from Sherry. I've just finished 2360 and need 2370 as a prerequisite for other courses. So I have to take the 2710 and the 2720, right? So you would need to take Biochem 2 and the new Biochem lab. That's correct. And so the lab course turns into elective if we took Chem 1310 and 1300 and 1310. So Harleen, it really depends on if you're in the program or not. If you're entering the program for fall 2021 and you have chemistry 1300 and 1310, then you do have an extra elective. And when you are able to run your declared program in Achieve, it'll automatically show you that you don't need to take the first year chemistry lab and that you'll be able to take an elective. Okay. Any other questions, or anyone feel like they'd like their question clarified? We'll be around at the end too if you want to, if there's any questions. I'm going to do just a quick overview of okay, I'm just doing a quick overview of Achieve. So Leslie, can you pop up the poll for the Achieve poll? Just want to get a sense of how many of you have used Achieve. Okay, so about 3/4. Okay, so Achieve is our degree audit system, and it shows you the courses you need in a degree as well as what courses you've already taken. So you can access Achieve through JUMP. Right now, Achieve is offline because we're putting in the fall 2021 curriculum. So it will go live again on Wednesday. So definitely you will just need to wait till Wednesday to run any audits. And we have most of our programs. We have our major and major co-op, our honors honor co-op, our general degree, and many joint programs in Achieve. So if you're interested in joining a microbiome or genetics program, you'll be able to run a what if audit on Wednesday and choose the fall 2021 curriculum. If you're not in a program, you always want to run the most recent catalog term. And that time it'll let you know what courses you have taken and what courses you need. And students who are currently in the micro and genetics program will be able to run their declared program. And the registrar's office is planning to add the new chemistry courses into past programs before returning student registration starts on July 22nd and onward. So if you're wondering what your catalog term is, if you're in a program, you can find your catalog term in Aurora in your web transcript, and you can just simply run a declared program audit in Achieve. And if you're not in a program, you would run a what if audit and choose fall 2021. But you can see the catalog term here in Aurora. This one is for fall 2020 for the student, and this is hard to see, but it says in Achieve it's fall 2020. And then the next slide here, this is just a quick snapshot of what an audit looks like. This is for a chemistry major. So green is for completed courses. It's a really nice visual. Red is for courses that still need to be completed. And if a student is in classes, so if you would be in any summer session classes or in progress classes, those are shown as blue. And then if you're running an audit, especially now that we're in the midst of some of these changes, if something doesn't make sense, we do ask that you contact us and just ask the question of, this is what I see in my audit. And you can either, PDF your audit so we can actually see what you're looking at and send it in to us. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca to talk about career options in micro and genetics.
For sure. Hello, everyone. I am really excited to talk to you about all of the amazing opportunities that you can have with your degree in microbiology or genetics, as well as all of the things that you can kind of stem from that undergraduate program as well. I know that this question of what can I do when I graduate can sometimes be the sort of thing that keeps us up at night, or gives us the real like anxiety stomach flip when we get cornered at like a family barbecue or something like that. What the heck are you doing with your life? The deep, scary questions that I think a lot of students struggle with and wrestle with as they progress in their university studies. And that's really what Career Services does, is we help students to figure this out. So we help you with the career planning process, figuring out who you are, what you want. We also help you access volunteering work opportunities. So if you're somebody who is looking for those opportunities, or someone who knows what they want, we're a really great support for you in creating a really tailored plan to ensure that when you graduate, you have the skills required to get into the jobs that you're interested in. We also are here if things don't work out as planned. So if you don't get into a program that you're excited about, or if you are planning to go into a competitive graduate or professional program after your first degree, I know a lot of people like to have backup plans just in case. We also are a really great resource to help you kind of have that safety net if you have those worries as well. For a lot of the students that we work with, I know that they really do care about having a plan and maybe having a really specific occupational goal that they're headed towards when they graduate. The reality is, though, sometimes it's really hard to do because things change, we grow, the labor market adjusts. And one thing I always just really try to encourage students to do is to remain open-minded as you progress in your program and you progress in your career. So anyone who's feeling like worried because they don't know what they're doing, I would challenge that idea and tell you that it's really healthy to be open-minded in your career. It allows you to be agile. It allows you to really grab onto exciting opportunities that come your way. The trick is that if you are unsure, is to really just keep your mind open, notice what's going on around you, get involved, try different things. And often for people who do these kinds of things, they end up in really great places in their careers that they're happy with. So anyone who's worrying about that, I hope that helps you to feel a little more okay with any uncertainty you have in where you're heading upon graduation. So I'm just going to quickly cover today some things to consider when you are career planning. So, if you're kind of thinking you want to, what can I do with this degree? I'm going to kind of show you some ways to think about who you are and connect that to your interest in genetics and microbiology. I'm going to show you some ways to do some research on jobs that maybe you've already thought about, or maybe some new job titles that you might learn about today. I'm going to show you some resources because I know some folks in these programs are interested in further education. So I'm going to show you some grad school resources as well. And then, of course, some further support of how you can get help from us at Career Services beyond today, because we do offer workshops and individual support, and our full suite of programming and support is happening virtually and on the phone. So you can definitely get in touch with us from home. All right, so you've already done some career development. You've chosen this program or you're considering this program. So that means you know some things about yourself, right? You know that you like science, and particularly that you like life science. And of course, you also have a whole lot of experience and skills you're bringing to the table that have allowed you to also learn about yourself. And that's kind of the model that we use at Career Services. This graphic is a overview of some of the, I guess, oversimplification, but it shows a little bit of how I often think about my work with students and what some of the key factors that I've noticed help them to learn about themselves. And then we can connect that information to occupations. So the first piece is subject preferences, which I've already mentioned. A lot of jobs are using the microbiology and genetics technical information that you're learning in school. So if you're enjoying those topics, that's a pretty big hint about what kinds of jobs you might like if you want to be really applying that information and those skills in the labor market. We also, of course, can match that together, right? So for example, if you really like microbiology, but you also love English classes and writing, that might mean that you could be a science communicator, a science writer. We can sometimes combine these interesting subjects that you are enjoying in really creative ways to allow you to use those subjects in your career. Another piece to think about is your interests. How do you prefer to work? What are you doing when you lose track of time? Even things like the Netflix shows that you really like to watch are clues about what you like and can help us to think about options. On the next slide, I'm going to also show you another way to look at interests that will dig a little deeper. Your personality is another really great piece. I often think about, are you an introvert or an extrovert? If you're more introverted, you might prefer more time to decompress and maybe some alone work in your job, versus someone who's very extroverted. You might really be looking for a job where you're getting to constantly interact with others, maybe a more bustling environment. And then finally, I like to think about your values. So these are the things that really motivate you to get out of bed in the morning or whatever time you go to work and really do that job to really feel like it's worthwhile. So these are things like the lifestyle that you want to lead, the difference that you're making in the world, your impact, intellectual challenge, all of these different components that go into feeling as though your work is meaningful are your values. I'm not going to go into I'm going to mostly focus on subject and interest today, but if you are interested in personality and values, that's a great one for you to come and connect with us at Career Services to dig into those a little bit more deeply. All right, so this is a Holland code. So this is an assessment of interests. And as I kind of chat my way through this, I want you to think a little bit about how each of these might fit into your own career. So most people have a couple areas of their personality, I guess, that really stand out on this Holland code graphic. So the idea is if you have a personality type, quote unquote, that matches people who typically love their job in that occupation, you might also love that occupation. But what I like about this is each kind of type is very flexible and there's like tons and tons of jobs for each. So it's not really like a matching, like icky kind of thing. It's very open-minded and it can really help you think about what you're looking for in your work, what you're interested in, and give you big amount of information and lots of occupational titles to consider. So the first one is realistic. So if you're realistic, you're somebody who is really seeking more of a hands-on practical job. So you might be someone who like really thrives in like the laboratory setting or field work, where you're really using tools and equipment and seeing really practical results of your efforts. Investigative people are people who love learning. So if you are just totally enthralled in your classes and you love the idea of being in school a really long time, you want a job where you get to learn constantly, where you're applying or researching and using really complex information, you might be investigative. Then we have artistic folks. If you fall into this area, you're someone who's very creative. You might be creative in a really traditional way, like art and music and writing, but you could also be just an out-of-the-box thinker in that you want to have creative problem solving or work with problems that have multiple solutions. Next, we have social folks. So our social people are looking for roles where they get to help, counsel, teach, support, empathetically listen. They're good communicators and they really like the idea of helping people directly in their work. Then we've got enterprising people. If you're enterprising, you are really confident being the leader. If you have a group project for school, you might really just take on the lead very easily and you enjoy that. You might be good at persuading and influence people and encouraging them to go along with your ideas and plans. And we'll see like enterprising throughout all kinds of different areas, just because there's managers in every field, right? And then finally, we have conventional folks. If you're conventional, you're looking for a more structured, organized, and careful environment. So this might be for folks that are really kind of like the more data and analytical side of science, and are really looking for very more like structured and predictable work environment. So here's just a couple of jobs that are related to your programs that are in each of these areas if you're curious to see them. Of course, this is not at all an exhaustive list, but I thought this would be helpful. The big one, if you're someone who's really looking for a more social job, would be to think about healthcare. And of course, there's tons of programs you can tack on top of your first degree in microbiology or genetics, like medicine, physician's assistant, genetic counseling. Then, of course, investigative, and for an undergraduate option, more like science education, program coordination, like patient advocacy and support, things like that, with more social. Investigative, if you're in there on the undergraduate side, a lot of like laboratory science kind of positions would be within this investigative component. And we also see science policy analysts, microbiologists, and geneticists really being very investigative. For conventional, you might be thinking more accounting or admin officer kinds of roles. For realistic folks, we see them maybe being attracted to more conservation officer work, outdoor field work, or some of the really hands-on practical laboratory pieces might kind of fit into the realistic as well. And then for enterprising, we've got things like pharmaceutical sales, clinical research, patient advocacy as well has that in it. And then for the creative folks, you might be thinking about medical writing, technical writing, medical illustration. So just some ideas, and of course, not exhaustive. So this would be if you're kind of unsure, you want to think of more options, great idea to maybe come chat with us. I'm just going to skip ahead in my slides quickly here. Because I want to show you a couple of resources on how to really learn about occupations. It's really important, I think, to get the information about different jobs you're considering to make sure you got the right education and the right experience and you're on the right track, to whatever your goals are. Or if you have multiple goals, you can keep all of those open at once while you explore. So the first thing I want to show you is our occupations library. I'm going to just pop this into the chat for you. Our occupations library is a database of tons and tons of different occupations. So all of the ones that I just chatted about, we have a page about those. So if you want to learn more, so maybe I'll just hop to the microbiologist page here. And on there, we have information about what a microbiologist does, so like a little blurb about their work. We've got their Holland code, so if you're interested in that, it gives you some more information so you can see how it's investigative and also hands-on. And then there's tons of links with job descriptions and great information about what the job is all about. Educational information, labor market information, how much money do these people make? Are there jobs? Like all those questions that I know you have, but maybe you're afraid to ask, you can find here. And then relevant professional associations, so if you want to get involved and learn more and build all those skills. Directories and industry associations, so you can identify employers that are relevant. And job boards, a really great strategy if you want to learn about work is to look at job boards even if you're not looking for a job right now, because you can see what the skills are that the employer is looking for and make sure that you're planning accordingly. Another really great resource that I like to use to identify options is LinkedIn. I'm going to quickly show you this. What's really cool is if you're on the University of Manitoba page, you can actually go in and see everybody from U of M that has your degree, which is super cool. This is just, I was typing in genetics, and you can see like where all those people work, and you can click into their profiles and see, how they got their job, like their true trajectory of people that are in a job you're interested in. It's really, really cool. So if you're kind of wanting to just see real world examples, really great to just like lurk around on LinkedIn. If you're interested in how to use LinkedIn in this way, you could always come talk to us individually for more support and how to do it. And we also run workshops on LinkedIn, which I will pop into the chat in a moment. All right, and then the last thing I want to show you in terms of information is our Career Compass. I should pop that into the chat for you as well. So the Career Compass, we have a life sciences compass, and it has tons of more job titles if you're looking to identify those, as well as some that require undergraduate or additional education. So it's a really, really great resource, again, for just really identifying stuff related to your interest in life sciences. Let me pop that into the chat for you as well. All right. And then the last thing I want to, or the other big thing I want to talk about is our Career Mentor program. This is a great way if you want to chat with someone, you have an idea of what you want to do, come use our Career Mentor program. It opens up in September. We can match you with someone working in that job and you can interview them about it. And then master's degrees and professional programs. I know a lot of you are thinking about this potentially if you want to explore universities across Canada. Universitystudy.ca is a really great resource for this. And remember that you can do a master's in the same thing you did your undergrad in, like, for example, to do a master's in microbiology, like on the screen. But of course, knowing that other programs will accept your undergraduate degree. So a master's in public health, policy master's degrees, virology or immunology, and all kinds of different areas will accept your undergraduate degree. So you've got a lot of different places you can pivot to as well in terms of additional programming and of course, master's programs, but also professional health programs as well, if that's something you're considering. In terms of things that you can do now, my biggest advice for anyone in any university program is make sure you're getting experience. So take the time to try stuff out, do as many things as you possibly can to learn about yourself and to build the skills required for your future. And I would really suggest you come chat with us at Career Services and also use your co-op program because those are all really great ways to make sure you're on track to reach your goals. If you'd like to meet with us, this is our contact info. I'm just going to also copy this into the chat so that you have it if you would like to save it. And we would love to connect with you. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm just gonna see if there's something right now. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly note that Christine, our senior advisor, just looked into the question about if students could use the like more the agriculture, the Chem 2740, 2750 for the Genetics 2 course, the Bio 3500. And I had said earlier that if it was listed as a prerequisite, I wasn't sure and I thought it didn't, but it can, those courses can be used as a prerequisite. But just to note that you need to check whether or not the 2740 and 2750 can be used in your program. So please double check before you take the 2740 and 2750 that they're going to work in your program. So there's just a quick note and a recap on the information that I gave before.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Nicole. I
was the one who asked about the using those for genetics too.
Okay.
So do you mean like I need to double check if the 2740, 2750 is like actually going to count for the degree?
Right. So like, let's say you're doing, if you're in a microbiology program, you wouldn't be able to use those in your degree.
Okay.
So,
do you know if they would work for a genetics degree?
No.
No.
Okay. Where would I be able to check that if it would work?
So if you're like, depending on the program that you were looking at, you would look in, you could look in Achieve, or you could look in the calendar, and it would tell you if those, I don't actually think there's any, there's some maybe biological sciences programs that could use those biochemistries, but mostly those are for students in like an agriculture-based programs.
Okay, so I should stick to the 2700, 2710 then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now I have just a couple more slides. And okay, so I just want to go over quickly before we're done, and I'll stick around afterwards for questions after, but I just want to be aware of the time here. Registration is coming up. So you can log in to Aurora on July 9th to see what date and time you register. So if students are in University 1, you can start transiting if you have over 24 credit hours to science or arts. You can do that in Aurora. And then advanced early registration, that's for students like BISAN athletes, students in accessibility services, presidents, scholars, leaders of tomorrow. They would register on the 12th. New students register the 13th and 19th based on high school grades, and then returning students register July 22nd to August 10th based on your degree GPA. So on July 9th, you can go in and you can find exactly what date and time, so you can make sure that you're ready, that you book time off work and you're ready to register. And then this is information on how to reach the science advisor. So if you need help understanding your audit, if you have any questions, just note this time of year is getting really, really busy for us. So there's often a phone queue. You can request a call back. If there's an email, just know if there's going to be a delay. So we ask before you send us an email or give us a call that you do some of that pre-work and do look up some information on Achieve once it's open, look at the calendar, and if you can find a solution, great, you find it on your own. If you can't, then contact us. And if it's time-sensitive inquiry, like a registration question, definitely call us. Don't send an email so it's not sitting in our inbox. And if you are emailing, we do ask that you use your U of M email account, that you use your full name, your student number, and list your questions so that we can help you. And we always email students in the order that the email is received. So sometimes there is a bit of a delay. And that's all that I have for today. Thank you everyone for coming out, and thanks for those for participating. And then I think we'll just stick around if there's any kind of last minute student questions.